Ooh, hello, wherever you are in the world, it's so nice to see you here on such a beautiful day. Here we go again. We are now live, as live can be, across YouTube and quite possibly the world. We will see what happens anyway. Here we are again. It is English Addict coming to you live and direct from the birthplace of the English language, which just happens to be, it's incredible, but it's true. It's England. Ooh. We are back, everyone. Hi, everybody. This is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? Are you feeling happy today? I want to see a smile on your face. Sometimes when we smile, we don't feel happy. It is possible to do that, you know. You can smile even though you don't feel happy inside. Some people like to put on a brave face. If a person puts on a brave face, it means they are being courageous. They are showing people that they are not bothered by something, or maybe they just want to hide their real feelings behind a smile. So I hope you're feeling good today, and I hope you are genuinely happy today. And don't forget, straight from the start, I will say, please give me a lovely like today, because likes, and I know I say this from time to time, these are very important things. You might not even realize just how important likes are here on YouTube. They are very important indeed. So we are back together again. My name is Duncan. I talk about the English language. I am one of those up there. I am an English addict, and I have a feeling, because you are here as well, you might be one of those as well. So that's the introduction over with. I'm just hoping today we have more success with our technology. We did have a slight problem last Sunday. I don't know what happened, but suddenly I was disconnected. And then I had to restart my live stream last Sunday. So for those asking, Mr. Duncan, why was your live stream so strange last Sunday? It was in two parts, and that's the reason why, because I had a little technical problem. You know what it's like sometimes. Things do not always go smoothly. They do not always go to plan. I was going to have Mr. Steve here at the start of the lesson, but unfortunately he has just received a phone call. So he's now on the phone, so we can't have Mr. Steve for now, but we will see what happens. We might not, but at the moment Steve is very busy on the telephone, talking to one of his friends, no doubt, about nothing, as usual. By the way, I was criticised on Sunday for interrupting Mr. Steve when he was talking. I had a message saying, please, Mr. Duncan, can you stop interrupting Steve when he's talking? It's very annoying. So I will try today, when Mr. Steve comes on here, to say hello to you all. I will try not to interrupt anything he's saying. I will let him have a complete free moment. Is that okay? Are we all agreed on that? We will see what happens anyway. It all depends on what Mr. Steve says, because sometimes he says things without thinking. So that's the reason why. It's not because I want to censor Mr. Steve, but sometimes I have to tell him to stop now and again. But it isn't because I don't want him to talk. It's nothing like that. I do not like to censor anyone. I do not think that censorship is a good thing. However, you do have to be careful, especially when we are talking about legalities and things like that. So that's the reason why. Here we are again. Yes, we've made it halfway to another midweek moment, as I like to call it, without blowing the planet up. Fortunately, although we do have some new changes, once again here in England. Yes, it's Wednesday. We are still on. Good. 10 minutes. And the internet connection is still working, so it looks as if we might be all right today. We will see what happens. We might have some luck. We might not. It all depends, I suppose. It is all in the lap of technology. It might decide to break. It might decide to work perfectly. We will see what happens. Hello also to the live chat. Nice to see you back today. Wednesday, we are approaching the end of October, which can only mean one thing. We are also celebrating the anniversary of my YouTube channel. Next Sunday is the 30th. However, the 31st is actually the anniversary. So we will see what happens. We might be with you next Sunday and Monday next week, because we are celebrating 16 years. And some people do say, Mr. Duncan, you are still here, especially people who thought I had disappeared from YouTube. But I haven't. I've been here all the time. I haven't gone anywhere. I've been here making lessons and live streams for 16 years. And a lot of people still don't believe it, but it's true. It was on the 31st of October 2006 when I started doing this. And here I am still doing it, even though YouTube would appear to not like me anymore. I don't know why. Maybe it's YouTube. Maybe it's you. Perhaps you don't like me anymore. Who knows? I do realise that human beings can be quite fickle sometimes. The word fickle. That particular word relates to a person who only enjoys something or likes something for a short period of time, and then they look for something else to enjoy and like. So that's what fickle means. A person who is very fussy. They change their mind or they change their taste in something quite often. So that is what we mean when we say fickle. Fickle people. And of course, because nowadays we have so much choice, and this is one of the things that I think has happened over the past maybe 10 years, because there is so much choice nowadays, it is hard to be noticed or to get noticed. So that is why a lot of people here on YouTube, many people who've been doing this for a long time, have now sunk to the bottom. Like the Titanic. That is it, you see. I feel like an old shipwreck lying at the bottom of the ocean, covered with barnacles. That's me. Hello, live chat. Who was first? Oh, very interesting. The champion is on top once again. Congratulations, Vitas. You are first on today's live chat. Congratulations, Vitas. Well done. We also have Beatriz. Paolo is here as well. Also, Palmyra, nice to see you back as well today. And who else is here? Sandra Gonzalez is here today. Very nice to see you back. I have been busy on the roof of my studio. Doing what, I hear you ask? I might tell you later. Hello, Omar Al-Haboob. Nice to see you here as well. Zudzika is here as well. Nice to see you back. We also have, very interesting, Luis Mendez. Luis Mendez is here today. Hello to you as well. Nice to see you back. I hope you are having a nice time. We are having glorious weather, by the way. I don't know what is happening, but I know that autumn is here. But we are having the most amazing weather. Look at the view outside today. Look at the beautiful leaves on the trees. It's a lovely sunny day, and it's also very warm. I don't know what's going on, but we are having some incredible weather at the moment. It is really warm, very beautiful, in fact. A lot of sunshine and also very autumnal. We have a lot of autumn in the air as well, as you can see from those pictures on your screen right now. Autumn is here. I know in certain parts of the world it is not autumn, it is actually spring. So for those who are enjoying springtime at the moment, congratulations to you. So we are having our autumn time here now, which means that, well, it means that autumn is always the signal. It says that winter is just around the corner. So I can't say I'm really happy about it. I do like autumn and the colours and the beautiful feeling of going out. However, it always means that winter is just around the corner. Can I say hello to PDW? Hello to you, PDW Unni. Nice to see you here today. Thank you very much for joining me. Who else is here today? I haven't seen Claudia. Has anyone seen Claudia? I'm wondering what Claudia is doing today. Maybe she is busy doing something else. But, there you are. Hello, Claudia. Nice to see you back as well. I suppose I should ask the question that I ask every single week, and you know what that question is. What's cooking, Claudia? What have you got in the pot? What's cooking, Claudia? Is it something spicy and hot? Is it something salty or not? Oh, Claudia, what is in the pot? What is in the pot, Claudia? Please let us know.
Yes.
And here he is.
Hello. I'm late, aren't I, Mr. Duncan?
I did explain briefly that you were on the telephone, very busy. He is a busy man. His telephone, he's not supposed to be working anymore, but he spends more time on the telephone than he did when he was working.
People want to talk to me, Mr. Duncan. I'm not going to ignore them.
You are popular.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, I'm joking. Yes, well, people, we've got friends, haven't we? Friends that like to call.
We have?
Well, I have, anyway.
I choose not to have many friends in my life, close friends. I choose it. So it's not because people don't like me. It's just that that's what I like. I like in my life not to have too many people around me. First of all, I have him around me. And that's the same as having 50 people nearby.
And of course, Mr. Duncan, you have all these wonderful friends that you have made over the years on YouTube. What else would you need? What else would anyone want?
Exactly, because you are my friends as well.
Yes.
Even though you are far away and I've never met any of you, although we might put that right next year. Oh, by the way, Steve,
yes.
I've been told off. I've been criticised for censoring you. So I'm not going to interrupt you. If you want to talk about anything today, as long as it's not anything connected to moss, your grass, politics, cars, or finance. So you can talk about anything except for those subjects. He's got nothing.
I've got nothing, Mr. Duncan. You've censored me. You've censored me from all the subjects that I like to talk about.
I was a bit naughty on Sunday.
You didn't say religion.
I was a bit naughty on Sunday. Well, I suppose politics these days seems to often coincide with religion when you think about it, especially when we talk about American politics. You often find that politics and religion quite often will become intertwined.
Yes.
It does happen. So when we see people on television in the United States talking about politics, quite often they will bring religion into it somewhere. But here it's not the same. We don't really. It's very unusual in this country to hear politicians ever talk about religion, unless, of course, it is the actual subject at hand. But generally speaking, we don't tend to mix politics with religion.
No, that is very true. But certainly in America, because it's a very highly religious country, I think certainly if presidents don't align themselves with Christianity, God, or religion in general, they're not going to get voted in. So they always feel as though they have to keep mentioning that. You know, God bless America.
Yes, and there
etc.
are hot spots as well. So we often think of the southern states, and they even have a term for it. They call it the Bible Belt. So that the southern states in the United States tend to be very religious, and they're even referred to as the Bible State or the Bible Belt, the area where religion or Christianity is talked about and observed quite a lot. So it is interesting. Talking of which, it was Diwali this week. So
Yes.
Hello to everyone celebrating the Festival of Lights.
And of course, a lot of people were also celebrating the appointment of our new Prime Minister at the same time.
It's never a dull moment.
Because we know why. I'm sure people know why. We have a Hindu Prime Minister now.
It is.
So, and that was Diwali. Was the same day.
Yes, it is
Diwali celebrations, and we've got a Hindu Prime Minister. So
it is big news.
never say that we aren't open to all types of religions and peoples from anywhere in the world can become Prime Minister.
Yes, I think anyone can become Prime Minister if you have billions of pounds.
That does help.
Connections with influential and powerful people, and have a lot of friends who are owners of big multinational companies. So anyone can become the Prime Minister of this country, as long as you have wealthy friends, a lot of money yourself, and have probably been to one of the top universities. But besides that, anyone can be the Prime Minister of this country.
And don't you think he's quite dishy? Don't you think?
A lot of women seem to like him, even though he's not very tall.
Yes, I'm calling him Dishy Rishi.
Oh, I see. A lot of people are.
Are they?
Yes.
Yes.
I did like it yesterday when Joe Biden tried to say his name. And as usual, when Joe Biden tries to say anyone's name, he gets it completely wrong. So I don't know who he was referring to, but it certainly wasn't Rishi Sunak. He pronounced it completely wrong, as usual. Anyway, big
Dishy
news.
Rishi.
Big news, wasn't it?
It was big news, yes. And he seems like a nice guy.
Yes. He's your typical down-to-earth billionaire.
Yeah.
Just, because we move in circles, don't we, Steve?
Oh, yes.
We move in circles. We do social circles. We know them all. The jet setters, the entrepreneurs, the millionaires, the billionaires, the gazillionaires. We know them all. Yes, we move and shake. We are movers and shakers. You get around.
He's, of course, joking. We have no connections whatsoever with any billionaires.
We don't.
Or, well, I know one millionaire, but that's another story. We won't go into that. That was pretty big news.
Yes.
And I couldn't understand this was Monday night, wasn't it? So Monday, I went to choir practice, and I have to drive. It takes me about three-quarters of an hour to drive there. And there were fireworks going everywhere.
Everywhere on the road.
There were, well, when I got to, it's Wolverhampton is where I go for this practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big town, very multicultural town. Lots of different ethnic groups live in Wolverhampton.
Just no white people.
Yeah, no, well, I couldn't understand because, you see, the 5th of November is not far away, bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night. But that's the 5th of November, so that's like a week away.
Okay.
And I couldn't understand why all these fireworks were going off. The odd firework you can understand because you can buy them. And I only realised when I came back, watched the news, and it was Diwali.
Yes, that's it.
And we've got a Hindu Prime Minister, so it was
on the
quite a coincidence.
On the same day.
That's got to be a good omen.
Yes. So maybe a lot of people who are Hindus might actually believe that is a sort of blessing, you see. So maybe it is a sign. Yeah, you never know.
It's got to be a good sign. I think this country's now on the up. Hopefully. We just got to negotiate a new deal with Europe, and then we'll be off.
Yeah.
I wonder what Lewis has got to say about that. Pedro's here, by the way.
Pedro Belmont. Pedro Belmont.
Thought you'd say that. Hello, Pedro. Hello, everyone. I've already said hello to everyone, but yes.
But whatever you say about this country, and I don't like it when people unfairly treat, well, any country, to be honest, anywhere around the world. But people do say that, they're so racist, those people in the United Kingdom with their racist ways. But we're not really. We are probably one of the most multicultural countries in the world, especially if you go to places like Birmingham. And yes, I did make a joke then about no white people in Wolverhampton, but there are, because we used to live in Wolverhampton. So there, Birmingham, Leicester, and then you go down to London. It's a huge melting pot. I love that phrase, melting pot. So there are lots of different cultures, lots of different people living side by side. And that's it, really. So I suppose it is very easy to generalise any country. But I would say that we are probably one of the most multicultural, tolerant countries in the world. There are many that aren't.
People admiring, Mr. Duncan, my T-shirt, my polo shirt.
It does look very nice. This is a colour that I don't normally see Steve wear as well. Well, grey. It's mainly sort of grey and light blue, but it looks good. It suits you.
I've had this for years. Where did I buy it from? I bought it from a shop that's now closed down in the UK. But I like polo shirts. I don't know what brand is this. I don't know what it is.
I've no idea.
I would have a look at the label. Somebody asked, you see. I don't go to it. I used to only go to one shop, and that was Gap, for all my clothes.
John Rocker.
John Rocker. If anybody knows anything about fashion, I probably got it in a sale, knowing me. I don't pay full price for things if I can possibly help it.
Okay.
I'm all ruffled now. I'm ruffled. But Gap has closed down now in the UK because all their clothes used to fit me because I'm quite skinny, slim.
Okay.
But you can't, I used to go there. If I couldn't get my clothes from there, I went home. But this one isn't. This is one of the exceptions that is not from Gap. I've had it years. Palmyra wants me to strip. Not today. Do we celebrate Diwali? Well, no, we don't, because it's not part of our, it's not part of our culture. But having said that, I would love to know a Hindu family so that I could celebrate with them, because I know I would get lots of lovely Indian food. Because if there's one thing you're going to get at a Diwali celebration, and that's lots of lovely Indian cooked food. In fact, I'm going for a curry on Thursday night with a friend of mine. So I shall look forward to that. But yes, we need to get in with some local Indian families, Mr. Duncan, so that we can...
there aren't many Indians living in much Wenlock.
There aren't, but I need to get some friends. Well, I used to have customers, many customers, Indian customers, and when I used to go there at lunchtime, they used to give me free samosas and onion bhajis. You're letting me talk, aren't you? You're not interrupting me. It's I've noted it. Noted. Your turn, Mr. Duncan.
Oh, my turn.
How long am I staying on for, by the way?
I don't know. There's no real plan.
I've got things to do, places to go.
By the way, I was very busy yesterday. Talking of the Festival of Lights, we have our own Festival of Lights coming up in December. So yesterday I was outside on the front of the house and on the side of the house. I'm starting to put up the Christmas lights. Now, I know what you're going to say, Mr. Duncan. It's too early. Why are you putting your Christmas lights up so early? Well, there is a reason for that, because the weather is so nice. So I don't want to wait until it becomes cold and wet and icy. So I want to do it whilst the weather is nice. So because the weather is so lovely and warm, I've been doing it. Well, I did it yesterday, and I might do a little bit more today as well after I've finished this live stream.
It's gorgeous outside, and I keep repeating this. That it is very unusually mild for this time of the year. So I was outside in I was getting hot, cutting bushes back and things like that. And it's just glorious out there. I mean, there have been, this time last year, it was very wet. You couldn't walk up the top here behind us into town without getting covered in mud. And now it's relatively dry. Over.
Oh, is that it? Good.
Do you notice Mr. Duncan is definitely letting me speak?
No, I'm going to do this from now on. Whatever you say, whatever you want to say and talk about, as long as it's not the subjects I mentioned earlier, you can talk about anything. Anything.
Pedro wants to buy a Ralph Lauren polo shirt. Yes.
Well, Ralph Lauren was an incredibly popular brand during the late 80s and 1990s. And also the other one, there was another one as well. I can't remember the name of it now. There was another one that everyone was wearing. I'm sure it was Fred Perry.
Yes.
Fred Perry, a great brand. And they make some very stylish clothes. I always think that Fred Perry clothing is more for people who play golf, because of course Fred Perry was a very famous golfer, and that's the name.
Was he?
The name of the brand? Yes, Fred Perry.
Oh, I thought he was a tennis player.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I always thought Fred Perry was a golfer.
Maybe he was.
Yes.
But who was the only British man to ever win Wimbledon?
So who is right? I'm saying golfer. Steve is saying tennis player.
I thought he was the only British male to have won Wimbledon back in 1926 or something, until that Scottish guy did it. But yeah, you might be right. So yes, Fred Perry clothing. The trouble with Fred Perry clothing is it looks very nice, but for some reason it makes you feel old.
And it did get quite a bad reputation, because lots of skinheads and yobbos, violent young people, started wearing Fred Perry clothing. It became one of those things that the T-shirts were very tight and very distinctive. So I think Fred Perry clothing, I'm sure it did. It became synonymous with yobs.
Did it?
And skinheads. I'm sure they used to wear Fred Perry clothing. If they didn't, I apologise, but I do remember that from casting my mind back to the very late 1970s. Yes, I was alive then.
There could have been a period, but it's normally associated with sort of middle-aged men who tend to wear a jumper with a shirt underneath.
Or as we like to call them, young people.
A very popular look for sort of middle-aged, sort of middle-class British people
Steve.
is what?
I was right.
Were you? Okay. So who was... so you were... I hate it when you're right, Mr. Duncan. I hate it. So anyway, Fred Perry was a golfer. Okay.
I was right. I'm the best.
Whatever you look-
I'm the winner. I win the game.
Well, Anna says he played tennis.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you played both.
Maybe he had a cricket bat in one hand, not a cricket bat, a golf club in one hand, and a tennis racket in the other. So maybe he could play golf and tennis at the same time.
But you are right. It is associated with golfers, Fred Perry. The clothing is.
Yeah.
So maybe he did. Can somebody look this up? Fred Perry, did he win Wimbledon?
I suppose we could look it up, but I just can't be bothered.
Well, I can't because I wouldn't know how to do it. I haven't got the technical know-how. I can't talk to you, look at the live stream, and look up things on the internet at the same time.
This is true, by the way.
So there we go. Yes,
We've covered a lot of things already.
we have.
This is a bit like Sunday.
It's a bit like Sunday. We're just rambling
Well,
generally about topics.
I'm not rambling. I'm giving Steve the chance to talk. Hence, the rambling.
So you might all regret bitterly complaining that Mr. Duncan is not letting me finish my sentences.
This is why that I have to have some sort of control. So not only am I the presenter of this, I'm also the producer and the director and the editor and the script writer. The only problem is we don't have a script. Everything you see is completely spontaneous.
Most of it. I've got an itchy nose. That's because I've been out in the garden and I've been cutting plants and things, and I think I've got some, bits of the plant up my nose.
Once again, I was right.
What?
Skinheads did wear Fred Perry. I remember them marching through my area and we beat them and they never came back. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Are you making that up? Because Fred Perry was. Yes, it was. It's amazing how fashion, and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but it is interesting how certain types of fashion become connected to certain groups of people in society. I remember during the late 1990s when a lot of people were wearing tracksuits and they have a large hood that goes over your head. But they became connected to people who commit crime. So quite often people would wear one of those tracksuits and they would have a large hood that would go over their head. And quite often they would hang around or rob shops or shoplift, commit crime, and then you couldn't see their face. And they became known as hoodies. Hoodies. Because the type of clothing that they wore was something that had a large hood that went over their faces. But so it is interesting, isn't it, how certain types of clothing become attached to certain groups of people, quite often in a negative way.
Fred Perry won 3 consecutive Wimbledon championships.
Oh,
according to Nitram.
yes. Isn't that strange?
So maybe he played golf as well. But I got in my mind here, buried away in my memories, that he was, for decades, the only person, the sole person that ever won Wimbledon, British person, until not Henman. Who's the Scottish?
That would be the one that the Scottish guy now.
Yes,
I can't.
Tennis player, British. He won Wimbledon, didn't he?
Wasn't Bilbo Baggins? Oh dear. He always looks miserable.
He always looks miserable. He's Scottish. Didn't he win Wimbledon?
The miserable Scottish guy.
He won Wimbledon when all the in the year when all the really talented players weren't playing because they got injuries.
It was only him left, wasn't it? He was the only one left.
I'm being very unfair, but
Yeah.
But anyway, yes. Yes. So,
Isn't that strange?
British tennis and table tennis.
Fred Perry, I was really sure. I was so sure that Fred Perry was a golfer. So maybe I'm wrong. Oh, I have to give Mr. Steve the credit. Maybe.
No,
Why?
so
Why? Why do I think of golf then? Is it just me? Have I lived in an alternate universe?
But it's probably because I know what you mean, because a lot of people that play golf wear there's that typical it's that sort of knitted jumper, isn't it? That's got a crew neck, and then you wear a shirt underneath with the collar coming out.
I think we have to get to the bottom of this, because I'm not sleeping tonight. I'll be awake all night, turning and tossing.
I think people. By the way, Pedro, this isn't an expensive brand. I think Pedro thinks that this is some expensive brand that I'm wearing.
I think it was £12.99.
It certainly wasn't. It was. It's not a. What was the expensive brand that Pedro was talking about earlier?
Ralph Lauren.
It certainly is not that. It's just a fairly middle of the range brand. In fact, I don't think the brand's even in existence anymore. I've had this at least 10 years. So it's not a fake anything. It's just not. It's not a.
Oh, okay, Steve. See that's the problem now. You just let me just say that miserable Scottish tennis player. If you Google miserable Scottish tennis player, and his name should come up, because he always looks miserable.
He won Wimbledon a few years ago.
I can't remember his name.
Palmyra is right. I'm definitely not obsessed about trendy brands of clothing.
No, neither of us. We're not really fashion people, to be honest. I mean, you can see here, this hat. I bought this, made in China. I think it cost me about £7. This hat. This T-shirt, of course, is mine. I designed it myself. So this is a Mr. Duncan design, actually.
So that's incredibly valuable.
Yes. This is the only one. So
Ralph Lauren, eat your heart out.
Yes, this is unique.
That is a design he would.
Yes.
He must be very jealous when he still alive.
This is like
Lauren?
This is like an NFT. You could sell this as a non-fungible token.
Is he still alive, Ralph Lauren?
I don't think he is. No. I don't think he is anymore. A lot of those old designers, they always look as if they've had a very extravagant lifestyle. I'm sure he passed not long ago. I'm sure it was.
Yes.
It was one of them, wasn't it?
Which was the one we were watching a programme about, a famous designer, and he'd had an awful life. It's somebody tried to kill him when he was younger, and he'd suffered all his life.
He wasn't a designer. That was
artist.
Yes, that was something completely different.
But anyway, all these artists and designers always have to have.
Can you see now why I have to sort of just sometimes bring it to a close?
Well, I can go. I'm quite happy to leave.
No, you don't have to go.
I'll stay then.
I still want longer. Who is the Scottish tennis player who is always miserable? I can see him. I can see him now going, well, I didn't have a very good match. Maybe.
I always wanted to say Tim Henman, but that was years ago.
No, he was the one that always took part but never won. Ever. And yet they named a field after him. There is Tim Henman, Henman's Hill.
And all his fans used to be there watching, which was a waste of time because he never won. Well, he didn't win. I think he did quite well, but he didn't actually win Wimbledon.
Don't make me Google. I don't want to Google. I'm not in the mood. I can see him.
I can.
Anyway,
never mind. No, not Larry Flint, whoever that is. He's still playing now. He's still playing tennis.
Larry Flint.
No, the British tennis player, Scottish, who recently won Wimbledon. Tall, miserable.
I think he won it about 5 years ago now.
He probably was. Andy Murray. Thank you,
Andy Murray.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Murray Mintz.
So it did work. If you just put miserable Scottish tennis player, his name will probably come up.
Yes. my mother was never a fan of him. My mother always liked a particular American tennis player. I can't remember his name.
Roger Federer.
And so when Wimbledon came up, my sister and my mother used to not argue, but my sister could never understand why my mother didn't support Andy Murray, and in fact supported this American tennis player instead. But anyway, I think it's all to do with the character. Mum said she just fancied him, basically.
I think
that's what it boils down to.
I know we've said this before in the past. Women watch sport for the same reason that men watch female sport. It's just because they like to look at the sexy players, the sexy outfits, the sexy athletes. They're all good looking and sexy. And that's the reason why. Don't forget it. Don't forget that's the reason why.
Who doesn't?
Indeed.
Who doesn't? We're all the same.
Yeah, underneath, we all have beating hearts and hot blood underneath this exterior.
Yes. You know, you look at somebody and think, yeah, I want your babies.
Why would you want somebody else's babies?
You know what I mean.
You mean kidnap them?
No, you mean you know what I think people know what I mean. I don't have to be specific in what I mean.
We've noticed.
Yes, you look at somebody and you think, yes, I'd have your babies.
Okay, again.
And you know exactly what I mean, don't you, ladies?
Yes. I think, what?
Yes, that's a phrase you can use if you really fancy a man. And it's better if you're a woman and you're saying this. You can say, "Oh, I'd have his babies."
Okay.
Just adding that into the English sort of language that we're teaching here today.
This is good. I'm so glad I'm giving you the opportunity to talk.
Oh, Francesca says, finally I succeeded to write on the chat.
Hello, Francesca. Have you had difficulty getting in touch?
Well, how wonderful! You're on the way. You're going. You're on the road. Bamboo for you says women are more lustful than men, but they hide it well.
Well, I think the way women do it, and this is something I've noticed in the past from my younger days, women tend to go out in groups. So maybe 3 or 4 women will go out and they will have a great time. And if there is a man nearby who they like or they fancy, then they will let him know in some way that he is attractive some way. So I think especially nowadays, because everyone's equal, you see. So I think a woman can lust after a man just in the same way that a man can lust after another woman, you see.
But maybe the priorities are different. From my scant understanding...
Trust me, that the priorities and the aims... Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Yes, I think when a man is looking for I mean, I'm talking in general terms, so don't come back and criticise me. Generally, this is what experts believe when you're attracted to someone. A man is usually attracted to the obvious physical signs of a woman.
Yes.
When that first attraction takes place, whereas the woman is looking for more, looking for maybe the attractiveness side isn't so important because they could be thinking, well, I want children and I want somebody who's going to be able to support me in bringing those children up.
So while you're saying...
So there are other priorities may come into play here.
Yes, different priorities,
not necessarily just the physical attraction.
Yes.
Obviously, if you're just going out for the night with your friends, it's probably just a purely physical for both sexes. But if you're looking for a long-term relationship with somebody, you're maybe not going to just look at... Well, it's just as well, though, isn't it? Because, let's face it, most people aren't that attractive.
We've noticed that's
so,
one. Can I just say something? You've just reminded me of something that I wanted to mention a couple of weeks ago. During the Queen's funeral, not the actual funeral itself, but when the coffin was lying in Westminster Hall, people were going by and looking at the Queen's coffin and paying their respects. there is one thing I noticed.
Yes.
And I know I'm going to get complaints, and they're going to say, Mr. Duncan, you horrible little man. But I noticed that almost 98% of the people going through were really, really ugly. And I thought, that's strange.
I was just looking for somebody that was attractive.
I wasn't lusting after. It's a very strange place, by the way, to look for attractive people. I don't normally go to funerals looking for attractive people. But sometimes, to be honest, the person in the box is the most attractive one there. But it was strange. And I thought, well, where... And of course, it was in London.
All those thousands and thousands of people.
Where are all these beautiful Londoners and people who you always see on television, on these reality TV shows? Where are they? Because when I was watching, and I have to be honest, I did watch quite a lot of it, I became fascinated by the people that were walking by. And I just kept thinking, there must be a good-looking one. There must be at least one attractive person. And there wasn't.
The odd one or two.
No.
Maybe it's royalists.
Yes.
Maybe they're just not attractive people. But yes, it's...
Am I bad?
But when you're... But it's just as well that people don't get into long-term relationships, get married to people based purely on looks, because... When you look at people in general, there aren't that, really truly good-looking people. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes. But
it's not just physical, it's mental, it's character, it's everything.
I think we all know that, but what I'm saying is, where are they? When you put the television on, and there's lots of these reality TV shows, and everyone on it is a hunky male or a sexy lady. They're all beautiful, but... Clearly, there aren't that many good-looking people around, because when I was watching the Queen lying in state, I did not see anyone that I thought they would look really good on the cover of a magazine. And I know I sound shallow, but that isn't the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, where are they? Because the impression that we have is that there are lots and lots of attractive people around, but it would appear that there aren't. I couldn't see anyone. Or maybe, and this is my theory, another theory, perhaps it was just the type of person who would want to go and pay their respects to the Queen. So older people.
Maybe. And also, I think if you are, I have this problem, Mr. Duncan, that when you are really devastatingly attractive, you don't like to go out very much because you get too much attention. So that's why I tend to stay in, Mr. Duncan, because I just don't want the attention.
I don't think you have to worry. We are not. I would never say that I'm attractive. I have to be honest with you. I've never seen myself as attractive. People have said, "Oh, but you're not that bad looking," and I take that as a compliment. That's it. I think that's as high as the scale goes with me. But you're not that bad looking, which isn't really the same as saying that someone is good looking.
But of course, when you're young,
you're not bad looking.
When you're young,
thanks.
When you've got youth on your side, then most people are more attractive when they're younger. Not always. I mean, I know a lot of ladies that are attracted to older men.
Yes.
And, for whatever reason.
Yes.
But beauty is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
But I used the Queen's lying in state as a very good reference, because all of the people coming in were random. So they weren't being chosen in any way. They weren't just saying, sorry, we can only have attractive people coming through, so it looks good on television. So what you were really seeing was the reality. It was actually quite mesmerising, and I did watch quite a lot of it because I was fascinated by the people coming through, and they were all not attractive.
Of course, they were sad. Beatrice points out that our new Prime Minister is attractive. Yes,
Yes.
well, we mentioned this earlier.
That's it.
He is quite cute.
Yes.
Is the word you would use.
So we've stopped the idea now of having a female prime minister for a while because she was awful, and not only that, she killed the Queen. Can you believe that? At least Prince Charles is still all right, or should I say King Charles?
Well, if anything happens to him, we'll know something's going on.
Yes.
Some plot to kill off the royal family by the political establishment.
Yeah.
But yes, so yes, Rishi, as we're calling him now, his first name's Rishi.
Mm-hmm.
We're calling him Dishy Rishi. So there's
unless
something
of course,
for you.
unless of course you are Joe Biden, in which case he called him Rouchard.
Belarusia says that you've got a very attractive voice, Mr. Duncan.
Well, at least there's something.
Yeah, at least there's something. Yes, exactly.
Someone once said that, Mr. Duncan, you have a face for radio.
That's not true. I found you attractive, when you were younger.
I was
Not now, obviously.
No.
But when you were younger.
I was just 24. Can you imagine me when I was 24? I looked so cute. I was very cute and innocent.
You've shown pictures of yourself, so we know you thought you were then. Rubar Majid says, hi to both of us. How are we? We are very good. Thank you very much. And how are you? Hope you are too. So yes, Beatrice, people are noticing. And of course, when it comes to casting your vote at election time, we probably won't have a general election for at least another 2 years unless something drastically goes wrong.
Again?
But people may well be voting for Mr. Sunak based on his looks.
Well, I think it does happen. We were actually talking about this yesterday, not here. We were talking about this away from the internet. There was no internet connection or cameras nearby, but we were talking about what they call popularism. And it has been something that's been around for many years in politics. You can go back to the 1960s and look at the rise of J.F. Kennedy. He was probably the first popularist that came along in politics, in American politics, that almost became a cult or a religion. There was almost a religious fervour that went with J.F. Kennedy's rise, when you think about it. And I suppose people over the past 10 years have said the same thing about modern politics, especially with you know who I'm talking about, you know who, I know who, he knows who, we all know who. And he might be back in a few weeks.
Well, the great relief, the huge relief, which I will mention very briefly, I'm not going to go into a rant, Mr. Duncan. The huge relief is that a certain person has not come back to be Prime Minister of this country, most divisive of leaders, responsible for us getting out of Europe and causing mayhem generally. So we mentioned this on Sunday, but yes.
I called it. I said Boris Johnson will not be Prime Minister again. It's not going to happen. Rishi Sunak will be made Prime Minister. And guess what? It happened. So I am the guy to come to for...
See?
Can I just finish my sentence? You're interrupting me,
No,
you see.
I'm letting you.
No.
Go on.
No. I called it. People now are coming to me for my political advice.
Beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder, because Tatiana says that Boris Johnson is handsome.
Well, that's it. Each person
Yes.
has their own taste.
I mean, he is popular. He remains popular because he's a bit of a character. But I'm, personally, I am ecstatic that he is not going to come back as Prime Minister. And in fact, I was getting very irate over the weekend, wasn't I, Mr. Duncan? I was writing comment. I even wrote to my local MP, who is a Conservative MP, to tell him whatever in no uncertain terms, my distaste for the prospect of Mr. Johnson returning.
I think you mean disdain.
And disdain. Distaste and disdain. But thankfully, that hasn't happened. So hopefully we're going to have a bit of stability, a bit of calm, because we don't want somebody who's so divisive, who divides people.
Yes.
Because you can't move forward when you've got these characters that have done things like leaving Europe that have caused all these divisions in society and within the government. We want somebody to calm the waters and just...
But this happens quite a lot in politics, and this is one of the things, and I know it's a strange thing to bring to the live stream, but the rise of Hitler came from that polarisation between those who were looking for someone to blame for the poor state of the economy in Germany during that time. And so the way Hitler did that, he got people on his side, and he caused divisions between groups of people. And that's really what you do. American politics is very much like that nowadays.
Divide and conquer.
Very polarised. You have one group saying, no, we don't like that. And then another group of people saying, yes, we like that. And that's it, really, in a nutshell. So I think dividing, splitting a nation over certain opinions or subjects is a very good way of getting people onto your side and developing a following. And as we've seen in the past, history has shown that quite often it doesn't end well.
Dangerous. Alex Go says we're bored without Boris Johnson. But yes, I can relate to that. And we can also relate to the fact that politics in America is boring without Donald Trump, because he provided entertainment. But I think, when you've got, in the world of politics, you don't want leaders who are entertaining. You want leaders that are good at the job.
Yes.
And leaders that can run a government and have the knowledge and the to be able to solve problems of the day. And this is the problem now, because we were discussing this the other night, because the celebrity culture is such a big thing now in society. Celebrities. Popularism, celebrities. People tend to vote for leaders who have got this, who are...
charismatic.
Yes, they're charismatic, and they Donald Trump came from the TV, and they're not necessarily thinking about, are they going to be good at the job.
Yes.
They're voting for them because they're celebrities.
Well, what I was saying is the genius of Donald Trump was that he knew how to use the media, and he still does. He's still doing it. So that is the thing. If you spend a lot of time doing a certain type of thing, and he did a lot of TV, and many people forget this. He was a massive TV star in the United States. He became very well known in the 70s, and then in the 80s he did get quite a bad reputation for the way in which he was buying and modernising and developing certain areas. There is a thing called gentrification. Gentrification is when you take an area and you buy the property or the area very cheaply, and then you build very expensive housing on there that only wealthy people can afford. So that basically is what gentrification is. But that's the genius of Donald Trump and the people behind him. He was able to tap in. He could tune in to people's thoughts and opinions, because he was a person who was very savvy, very, very commonly involved with television and the media.
Of course, I mean, in America, they had that famous film star that became president, didn't they?
Yes.
I can't remember his name.
You can't remember his name?
No.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. So but I mean, he was, he's considered to be quite good at the job.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessarily follow
that
just because you are a celebrity, you're not going to be good at the job.
Yes.
But,
the beauty of Ronald Reagan, is he already had a political base because he had been a senator for many years.
Yes.
So that's the thing with Reagan. And his first term was successful. However, his second term, not so, because he was suffering from dementia. He was already losing his faculties during his second term. But certainly he did change the face of the planet, along with Margaret Thatcher, and the way that our views of the Soviet Union at that time was. So it's interesting. I always find these things quite interesting. I worry that it might be boring for you, but I always find these events and the way the world has changed, sometimes for the better and sometimes not.
People often forget as well. I mean, I often forget that there was an assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. He was actually shot and injured.
Yes, he was doing it for Jodie Foster.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So people often forget he was getting into his car and somebody tried to assassinate him, and the bullet did hit him, didn't it? He ended up in hospital. I don't know how seriously injured. I don't think he was critically injured, but nevertheless he was shot.
Yes, and a few days later he was up and about and doing his work. So I will give him that, even though he was a Republican at that time, and that party does not always sit very well with myself and quite possibly Mr. Steve for various reasons. But there you go.
Bamboo for you wonders if Ronnie and Maggie were having a secret affair.
It is interesting.
Yes.
I am fascinated how sometimes historical events, sometimes they seem to align themselves. And I think that very strange period during the early 1980s when we had the Soviet Union, which was already going through a bumpy, rough patch, and also the threat of nuclear war, which was hanging over our heads as well. And let's face it, the economics of the planet weren't exactly great either. We were just coming out of the 1970s in this country. So it did take a few years before the 1980s started getting better. So I always find it quite interesting when we have statesmen or statespeople like Thatcher and Reagan who seemed for some reason to be very similar, and because of that they were able to communicate very easily. So I like that. I think that's good.
Yes, we saw a programme about that, and quite often it was Margaret Thatcher was used to appear to be in control, but I think in the background Ronald Reagan knew how to handle the situation. But anyway, that's a bit boring.
Yes, well, I think it's interesting.
Yes, Tatiana says Dishy Rishi made lots of mistakes in the pandemic, and we're paying the price. Yes, well, a lot of people are saying that. Spent far too much money.
I do.
Wasted a lot of money on PPA. Is it PPA equipment that turned out to be faulty and all that type of thing? And I think
PPE,
yes. Yes, a lot of money was wasted and we're now having to pay for that.
Well, yes, because most of it was written off during the pandemic. Lots of things were purchased that were actually useless and could not be used. It all had to be destroyed. But the millions were still paid to the companies, and many of those companies had connections to people who were in British politics. And then Mr. Rishi, Mr. Sunak came along and he wrote a lot of that off. So the people got to keep the money. There was never any inquiry about that. So he has been criticised quite a lot over the past couple of years for some of the decisions that he made, trying to cover up or forget about a lot of the embezzlement that went on during the pandemic. And there was a lot a lot of people
A lot of companies making money from
taking
PPE
lots
equipment
Yes.
that turned out to be useless and things like that. But
But I think it's always the same. As I mentioned earlier, anyone can become prime minister. All you need to do is be a billionaire, have lots of connections, and go to a very nice college or university when you were younger.
yeah, so
Anyone. We could be the next prime minister. We could do it together.
I would. What would you do if you were made prime minister, Mr. Duncan? What would be your first, the first thing that you would do?
Oh, that's interesting. What would I do if I had the power
Putting you on the spot.
to change one thing? I think certainly from a social care point of view, for those who are not necessarily young, but those who are older. And I do think, and I feel quite strongly about this, to be honest. I think people over a certain age in all societies tend to be forgotten. It's almost as if they become invisible. And you know my thoughts on that.
Certainly in the UK, I think some other cultures, like in Italy, maybe, and in France, I think maybe Lewis can tell us that elderly people are more looked upon, because of their amount of experience they've had. And but yes, there's a lot of people lonely. Certainly in the UK, we don't really respect elderly people very much.
No,
I don't think we do. Not compared to other countries.
I think it is because you can't make any money from older people. That's it. In that nowadays, the direction is 18 to 24-year-olds. Apparently, they're the ones that have all the money, mainly because their parents, who are in their 40s, also have lots of money. So I think that is the way it works in that respect. But once you hit our age, once you become in your 50s or late 50s, early 60s, I think slowly you become invisible. It's almost as if you don't exist anymore. And I think that's quite sad. So from my point of view, I would make sure that people over 50, 55 or even 60, I would make sure that they do get the care and attention that they deserve. And that would be my way forward. There you go.
You're not going to ask me what I would do.
Well, I thought you were just going to give it anyway.
Oh right, I would cancel the proposed law that they're going to bring in 2030 to stop the production of all internal combustion engine cars.
So wait, what did I say? You can't talk about cars.
But I am, because I will reverse that decision.
Oh, I see.
Because I don't necessarily... I have not yet been convinced that electric cars are going to solve the planet's problems.
No.
And in fact, what I would do is I would encourage sustainability throughout society to try and encourage people to keep things for longer and not change cars every 3 years, not change your clothes every year. Keep things for longer.
So it seems
pass furniture down to your children and to your grandchildren.
So this seems more like being wasteful.
Yes, I would encourage sustainability in that way, to encourage people like our parents used to. I mean, if you had a sock with a hole in it, your parents would sew the hole up. If you kept clothes until they wore out. But
you couldn't afford new clothes or new socks. So I think that was the reason.
Yes, I know, because what's happened is the price of things have come down because of globalization. A lot of things coming from China. The price of these things have come down so much. It's like if you have a new freezer or a fridge freezer. If it breaks, it's cheaper to get a new one than it is to have the old one repaired. Well, that's not right.
So you want to end globalization?
Not end globalization. I just want to increase sustainability by some way of encouraging people to not change their cars every 3 years. Keep them for 20 years. But of course, this is very anti-business. What I'm proposing is not going to help the economy.
No.
Because it is not, because the whole of the Western economy is run on the fact that people are constantly buying new things.
Yes, well, that's the economy, isn't it?
That's the economy.
That's how economics works. Capitalism is about making not just money, but making more money.
And the only way you can carry on making more money, the value of companies goes up and thus the stock market goes up, is if companies constantly sell more new things.
Yes.
So at the moment, the whole of society is driven by encouraging people to be wasteful,
Yes.
to throw things away and get new things well before they've worn out. And a lot of that is the pressure that you see on television of envy that is pushed in society.
Yes.
You've got to envy your neighbours for having a new car, and if you haven't got one, you feel poor and put down. Whereas in fact, the reverse should be encouraged. That if you keep a car for a long time or anything, you know what I'm saying. Sustainability in that way, it's the only way forward, I think, to help humanity in the long term.
You almost seem, and don't take this the wrong way, it almost seems like you want communism.
No, I'm not saying communism, Mr. Duncan. I'm not saying that at all.
No, don't turn this
I'm
into
saying sustainability.
No, I'm not arguing with you.
I'm not saying the state should provide everything. No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just not that the state should provide. That when you get, I believe in capitalism.
Okay.
Certainly, but don't encourage people not to keep buying new cars, new things all the time, because that's the way I think that you save the planet. I'd like the car I've got now. I want to buy a Ford Mustang, Mr. Duncan, and keep it for 20 years, 30 years.
But don't they have to build that Ford Mustang?
Oh yeah, but they won't have to. If I was to change that every 3 years, which people are encouraged to do, aren't they? Then they'd be building one every 3 years. Whereas if everybody doesn't buy a new car every 3 years, then the rate of production of new cars will eventually go down. I'm just using cars as an example. And I know someone's going to come back to me and say, well, Ford Mustangs use a lot of fuel. They do, but if I'm keeping the car for 20 years, 30 years, and not changing it every year, then that will save more energy because I won't have the cost of energy in manufacturing a new car is vast.
Yes.
I've had my rant of the day, Mr. Duncan.
So basically you just want to say that we don't have any economy anymore, any economic growth. Because that's
what I am saying, yeah.
Yes, but that's it. That would be the argument, wouldn't it? So what do we buy when we go out, when we go online?
Well, I this is how I live anyway.
Yes.
This is how you live. We only buy things when they wear out.
You would be a really good politician because you haven't just answered my question. So how do we have an economy if nobody's buying anything?
Yeah, but they are buying things because, you don't buy things until... I'm always buying things, but I don't buy things until they wear out, like with clothes. I've had this 10 years. I'll keep it for another 10 years. And so eventually you have to replace things. It's just that there won't be so many new things being bought.
But you need growth.
This is the problem. The trouble is the growth is too high. We're expecting too high growth in the economy. So it would come down for a while.
We've certainly put an end to that. That's certainly come to an end.
So it will not be popular with business leaders at all. I would never get voted in if that was on my manifesto. Because business leaders will be thinking, how are we going to make any money if Mr. Steve is encouraging people to keep things and only buy them when they wear out?
And that's the reason why we have a billionaire as our Prime Minister. That's it. Basically, his father, who also happens to be very wealthy, and his wife and her family, very wealthy. So that's what it's all about. It's all about wealth, making more money, being wealthy, being more wealthy, having more money, creating more wealth, and not sharing it. No one else gets it. Just those that 1%, as we call them.
Yes. So where are we? Yes, a third of food is wasted because people throw out food well before it's sell by
But
date.
that-
They buy too much.
Yes, but that can also be aimed at businesses who want you to go to their supermarkets and fill your basket full of things that will be out of date or go rotten in just 2 or 3 days' time. So it once again, it's almost self-destructive. I always think capitalism is self-destructive because you always need to have things breaking or things being updated or things becoming old or rotten for people to keep buying
Well,
things.
it's obscene, I think, that, appliances, they often say appliances are made to break down so that you have to change them
Yeah.
every so many years, which cannot be good long term. I mean, there were always, somebody might say that, if I do this, people are going to lose their jobs. Well, some people might lose their jobs for a period of time if you're not making so much new stuff, but there could be other jobs created in other areas. And let's face it, there wasn't mass unemployment when my parents were growing up. There were enough jobs for everybody.
Well, I think at that time manufacturing was not global. It was all in. We had a car industry in this country, didn't we?
Yes, well, that's it. Yes.
Well, yes, we had a coal industry. We had a steel industry in this country. So we had a lot of manufacturing. Now, I still don't know what we actually make in this country.
Very little.
What do we make? Do we have manufacturing? I know we have lots of small factories and small businesses, but we don't have big factories, British factories, British-owned factories making things. I know there are lots of companies from other countries here because of certain subsidies and kickbacks.
But you're right, we don't have the big industries that we used to. When we were growing up, we had our own thriving steel industry, car industry, all the big industries that we had, that now most of those, like a lot of countries, certainly like America have done, all that manufacturing has gone to areas of the world where it's much cheaper to produce those goods, like China, and thus we could create a lot of new jobs back here if we had that manufacturing back here.
But
their goods would cost more.
Yes.
Which would encourage us.
Yes.
Well, if the goods cost more, then that would encourage us to keep them for longer. And it would encourage manufacturers to develop products that lasted longer, so that when you pay the more money for that product, it's going to last a long time. Our kitchen here, Mr. Duncan, we've got appliances that are over 30 years old, and they're still working.
Yes.
Because they were made in a time, obviously, when they were better made.
Well, they were made in Germany.
Yes, we didn't put these in. They're quite expensive appliances that whoever had this house before put in. And the fridge, they're well over 30 years old. The fridge is well over 30.
Yes.
It's still going.
That's it.
Touch wood.
Yes.
We don't want it to break yet.
Yeah, so we have a dishwasher that must be at least 35 years old.
Yes.
But it was in this house when we moved here, and we still use it. And it's all made in Germany because, well, there you go. And it was probably very expensive at the time also.
Yeah, there we go. Nitram, you've just given us that wonderful quote from Churchill. Capitalism is the worst form of economy format except for all the others.
That's it.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's the best of the worst.
It's the best of the worst. There is no... But I think if you just encourage people, if there's some way of incentivizing people to... I know I'm going on about this a lot.
Yes.
But I think that's the way to a more sustainable way of life.
But I think the level of living would drop because of that. Because at some point, it's a word that was used a few years ago, way back in the early 2000s, and we talked about peak, P-E-A-K. So when we talk about something peak, We mean the highest point that it reaches before it starts to fall again. And that's the problem. The problem with capitalism is the peak always has to rise a little bit. So each year you always have to have that peak, but it always has to be a little higher. It's a bit like climbing a mountain, and then you have to always find a new mountain that is higher than the one you just climbed. But eventually there won't be any more mountains that are higher, and that's it. Then you've reached your peak. And I think economics has that same problem. You might see that with things like mobile phones, cell phones, smartphones. That industry has suffered over the past 5 or maybe even 10 years because people are not changing their phones. They don't feel as if they want to keep buying new phones. And let's face it, some of them, £800, £1,000 every year. Who's doing that? No one. So we have to avoid that peak. It always has to keep going up slightly each year.
They already are already saying that the generation that had it the best were the ones that grew up after the war.
I agree.
In terms of quality of life and ability to grow wealth.
The baby boomers.
The baby boomers, of which I'm a baby boomer in effect. Because we were able to buy a house quite easily. I was able to buy a house when I had my first job. They were quite affordable then. I wasn't earning a lot of money, but I was able to buy a house. But now I couldn't. If I was starting on the wages I did in relative terms in my 20s, now I wouldn't be able to buy a house. When I bought my first house, it was probably worth 3 times what my annual wage was. Well, now it's 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah. Well, everything's just spiraled out of control.
Yeah, that's capitalism going wrong.
Yes, houses are too expensive. People can't even afford to buy their first house. Never mind go up the property ladder.
So building up that wealth now is going to be very difficult for young generations.
It's very hard to get on. It's very hard to get on that ladder.
Yes.
So you start off normally with a very small property, a small flat or a very small property, and then you slowly climb that ladder. But many people now are still having to rent or even stay at home with their parents.
Yeah, so I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I've seen some of the comments, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we shouldn't be manufacturing anything. I'm just saying that when we do make things, we should be looking at building high quality things that last a long time.
Yes.
So the companies can still make money, but we don't want to be constantly smelting iron to constantly make new appliances when we could actually make very good quality ones, keep them for longer, but pay a bit more for them. And that's what I want to encourage. But probably one won't happen because no president or no leader of any party is going to get into power by saying that he wants to encourage people to buy less things.
Yeah.
That's never going to be popular.
But what I find interesting, this also crosses into the environmental thing as well.
Well, that's it.
I don't want to talk about this, by the way. So I'm just going to mention this briefly.
It's 3:30.
Yes, because I've got a whole subject to talk about. Wait, no, don't say right. Let me just explain this quickly while it's still in my head. It's a little bit like the environmental thing. There has to be some sort of compromise, and no one is willing to give up their warm houses, their expensive devices, their big TVs, their nice car or any vehicle to make the world better, because somewhere you have to have compromise. And when we say compromise in politics, it is always a bad thing. Always. So if you really do want to save the planet, you have to stop driving. You have to stop having...
That's more extreme than mine.
No, I didn't say that. No, I'm not saying that. No, again, I don't think you've just listened to what I've said. I'm not saying that's what has to happen. I said how it correlates with the changes that people might want to make, but they never will. So I'm actually agreeing with you, Steve. I'm actually not going against. But it is. So you have to make changes that make everyone's life a little bit worse. But no one's ever going to vote for that, ever. And that's the reason why we are here now with everything going on.
But at some point, you cannot keep driving a system whereby you are encouraging people to constantly buy new things and manufacture new things at an ever-increasing rate when the population is going up and more poorer countries that want to have that same quality of life. At some point, the system will break, but that's probably what will happen. It will break.
Yes.
And then...
See, I don't think it will, because now we're already talking about countries coming up. Africa is going to be the biggest country economically over the next 10 or 15 years. And it sounds crazy.
And India.
Well, yes, I'm just talking about the far future. Africa is still seen as a country a continent that doesn't really have any interest in world economics. It's going to be a big place because China over the past 10 or 15 years have been putting so much money into Africa, and China never does anything without wanting something in return. So I think that the continent to look at, with all of the countries that make up Africa, and it's a pretty big continent, trust me, it's going to be Africa.
Yeah, that is the danger now. That anyway, let's not keep going on about that.
What danger?
The danger is that lots of poor countries now, of course, want the same quality of life as the West. So we've only scratched the surface in terms of what could possibly be consumed in the future. So I don't know how it's it is sustainable. But that is not a question for us to answer.
No,
that is a question for future generations to solve.
Yes.
It's
just leading somewhere.
No, what it's leading to is me going, so that you can carry on doing what you originally planned to do.
I know. I didn't think we were going to be here for 1.5 hours talking here.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, they do think there is going to be a problem with world populations in the future because there are more and more old people.
Yes.
There are less and less young people.
That's literally what I said earlier.
Yeah, so that, that's it. You've got to, so the older people aren't working anymore and not putting anything back in, but somehow the fewer and fewer proportion of young people have got to pay for that lifestyle, the health care and everything, and the pensions of older people. So, I mean, we're going to be coming into that. So, let's just hope they'll carry on paying for my pension for a lot longer yet.
Okay.
And on that note, Mr. Duncan, I will say farewell.
Thank you, Steve.
To you all. And
so this is what happens when I let Steve talk.
Yes.
So we end up with being here with Steve for 1 hour and 10 minutes of Steve.
So do you want more of this or less of this? This is what you've done, isn't it? You're giving me free rein today so that you then get people complaining and saying, oh, why did you let Mr. Steve go on and on and on? It was so boring.
Yeah, well, this is it.
This is what, that's what I know what you're doing, Mr. Duncan.
No, you don't. You don't know what I'm doing.
I'm not just a pretty face.
I'm giving you the freedom.
Because you then want to tip it the other way so that people can complain.
There is no...
And you can say, yes, I was right.
Yes, doing that's the problem. When you don't know when to stop the sentence. That's the problem. You can say anything you want, but brevity is the soul of...
Well, I don't know. You started the quote, Mr. Duncan.
Well, it's Shakespeare. So be brief. Keep it short. Less sometimes is more.
I know what he's trying to do, and you do too. Anyway, I shall say adieu, farewell.
What?
And see you all on Sunday, assuming that you want me back.
Well, of course. Well, no one said they don't want you back.
Well, you're hoping they will.
No.
You're hoping people will say, will you shut Mr. Steve up? He went on and on and on too much.
You really are digging a hole for yourself here. No one's saying this. They might say it now you've suggested it. Sometimes it's best not to say certain things. It's like me saying, shall I carry on doing my live streams? And then suddenly 1,000 people say they don't want me to. and 80 say they do. So you have to be careful not to open those cans of worms because you can bring more trouble on yourself.
Vitas made a funny joke earlier about a patient goes to the doctor and the doctor says, "Oh, you're fat and overweight," and then the patient says, "Well, have you got anything else you can say to me?" And he says, "Well, yes, you're ugly as well." I thought that was a funny joke.
Have you got anything else to say to me? What do you mean,
can't
a second
remember.
opinion?
Yes, that's it. Have you got a second opinion? And the doctor said, "You're ugly as well."
You tell that joke so badly, by the way.
Anyway, right.
Well, come back next week to the Vegas room and enjoy the comedy style of Mr. Steve, where he tells jokes in the worst possible way.
People have already read Nitram's joke.
No, Vitas.
Vitas' joke. Please don't go, says Juan Jose Diaz Radovic. Does that mean me not to go? Oh, you see, Mr. Duncan, I have fans.
I think he's singing a song, actually.
Yeah, but I think it's applying to me. Anyway.
By KC and the Sunshine Band. Please don't go. Don't go. Anyway, see you on Sunday.
I am going, and I'll see you all on Sunday. Have a nice time.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. And there he goes. Mr. Steve has left the building. Whew, dear. That was a lot of work. If you just tuned in, if you just clicked on my big fat face, hello everyone, welcome. It's English Addict with me, Mr. Duncan, on a Wednesday afternoon, 3:35 p.m. here. I don't know what time it is where you are because I'm not there, you see. I'm here instead. Thank you, Steve. He will be back with us on Sunday. Of course, 2 hours on Sunday. I was going to talk about a big subject today, containers. So we are going to do this until, well, it looks as if we will be continuing till 4 o'clock. So I hope you don't mind. I'm ever so sorry about that. But it is Steve's fault because he likes talking a lot. Here we go then. Container, words and phrases. After everything we've been talking about and looking at, this seems very basic and easy. But we will do it anyway because I spent all morning preparing it. Container, words and phrases. A container is an object used for holding or storing. So when we talk about a container, something that is contained, it is in or it is being held within something. So we often talk about the word contain if you are holding something in one place or maybe in some sort of container. For example, you might have different types of container, and we will be looking at those in a few moments. Containers come in all shapes and sizes, and that's what we're going to look at right now. Would you like to look at today's first container? You would? Okay. I bet you are so glad that you waited for this. Today's first container is a bucket. Bucket. I love that word because it sounds a little bit like a type of swear word. You can say bucket. I walked along the road and I kicked the bucket that was standing in front of me. There are many phrases connected to bucket, a container that you normally use to carry water. You might carry other things in a bucket. You might carry milk. You might carry oil or petrol. Probably best not to, though. Please don't carry petrol in a bucket. Suddenly I wish I hadn't said that. So never carry petrol in a bucket, please. Of course, you can kick the bucket. If a person kicks the bucket, it means that they have died. A person kicks the bucket. Any more phrases? Oh, there is another phrase that we can use using the word bucket. You can have a bucket list. Have you ever heard of this? Have you heard of a bucket list? A bucket list is a selection of ambitions that are wished to be achieved in one's life. Basically, things you want to do before you kick the bucket is your bucket list. So the bucket list are things that you want to do before you leave this vale of tears forever. It is your bucket list. So that is a type of container. Here is another container, one that is very common. I would imagine that at least one of you watching today has had one of these delivered to their house. Yes, we are talking about the lovely box. We can also use the word carton as well. So you can describe this thing as a box, or carton. It is something that you put things in, quite often for storage, or these days, quite often for delivering things. We have left a parcel, or box, or carton outside your house. So quite often these are used for delivering goods as a parcel. But more commonly, we will call these boxes or cartons something that is in a box. There are some phrases we can use as well. You might box in someone. If you box in, it means you force someone or something into a confined space with no room to move around. So if you box someone in, we are using that as a phrase to mean force someone into a tight or enclosed or small space. You box them in. I think there's another one as well. Is it? Oh yes, you can think outside the box. If you think outside the box, it means you express views or ideas that are unconventional. Things that you think, ideas that you have, that no one else has tried. Maybe someone will accuse you of being crazy because you have decided to think outside the box. So there is another phrase that we can use connected to a box, which is a type of container. Another container now. Oh, this is interesting. So this is actually referred to as a shipping container. You will often see these on large boats, large ships that travel from one part of the world to another, transporting goods, products, things, items. Shipping container. It is a large metal container that is used for transporting goods around the world and across the seas. Here's another one, another type of container. Oh, what's this? Very interesting. Oh, ooh. This is something that I like to use from time to time when I have too much food. Sometimes I will use one of these. I will use an airtight container. Airtight. Something that will seal. You can put things inside it, and when you close the lid, the air will be trapped inside. It will be airtight. We often use this when we want to preserve food. Maybe there is some food that you've cooked and you want to keep it in the refrigerator. Quite often you will use one of these, an airtight container, a type of container that will keep food fresh. Normally, you have to keep it in a refrigerator. Talking of keeping things and preserving things, another container. This is a jar. Jar. A very common type of container, normally used for keeping jam or certain types of sauce or honey. Anything that you want to keep. You want to keep it preserved for a long period of time. You use a jar. Jar. I like that word. It's very easy to say. Jar. Here's another one. Oh, I like this one. Oh, let's have a look. Oh, there it is. Oh, yes. This particular item is something that was very common many, many years ago. The word is barrel. Barrel. A barrel is a type of container quite often used for storing wine or maybe vinegar as well. I believe you can also use vinegar. You can store vinegar in one of these, inside a barrel. Sometimes barrels are made of wood. They can also be made of metal. So we might think of oil. So when oil is pumped from beneath the ground, it is put into barrels for delivery, or maybe into one large container. Barrel. There is a phrase that goes with barrel. We can describe a person as a barrel of laughs, a person who is always jolly and fun to be with. That person is a barrel of laughs. They are such fun to be around. We can also use that particular phrase sarcastically as well. If a person is not fun to be around, maybe someone is not fun to be with. Maybe they are always sad and miserable. We might say sarcastically, oh, that guy, he's a real barrel of laughs. You are using it sarcastically. You are saying that that person is not fun to be with. So you can use that particular word sarcastically in a phrase. Here's another one. This is something that we had outside our house for a very long time. This is a skip. And this is a type of container that is normally used when you want to get rid of a large quantity of waste. If you have something you need to get rid of or remove, you use a skip. So in British English, you will often say skip. In American English, you will say dumpster. We say skip. In America, in US English, dumpster. So one of those is a type of container that is used for getting rid or removing large quantities of waste, things you don't want. Here's another one. Oh, we have 3 here. Oh, okay then. Very nice. Isn't that nice? Look what we have there. We have cup, mug, and beaker. So the first one, cup, normally a small vessel for drinking things like tea and coffee from. Cup. And then we have mug. Mug is a large cup, normally for drinking coffee from. And then we have beaker. Beaker is a type of container, normally without any handle. So you can't pick a beaker up with a handle because there isn't one. Beaker. So quite often a container for storing liquid or putting liquid into is a beaker. I like that. There used to be a group of people called the Beakers. I'm not joking. Here's another one. Oh, I like this one. jug. Jug. Quite often, a jug is used for containing large amounts of liquid for pouring, maybe milk or water or something else. So a jug is often used for storing something you are going to eat or drink. You can put gravy in a jug. You can put milk in a jug. You can simply put water in a jug. Here is another container. We only have one more. This is a bottle. Oh, very nice, Mr. Duncan. We have seen many bottles in our lifetime. So a bottle is something that is used for carrying liquid, quite often water, maybe a fizzy drink, soda, perhaps, or maybe beer, maybe. We often use bottles and they are in common use. In the past, we used to have glass bottles. Quite often you would see all bottles made of glass. However, these days, many bottles are now made of plastic, which of course has caused a little difficulty with the environment, sadly. Here's another one. We have a phrase connected to bottle. If you lose your bottle, a person who loses their bottle loses their courage. To become afraid or to lose one's courage. You lose your bottle. You suddenly lose your courage. Maybe you are going out with a friend and perhaps there is a fight taking place in a bar and you think, oh, I might go over there. I might go over there and join in. But then suddenly you change your mind. You lose your bottle. You lose your courage. So that is a great expression that we often use in English, connected to one of the many containers that we've looked at today, bottle. There are many others, of course. I'm sure there are many others that you can think of, but those that we've looked at today are the most common. I hope that's helpful. And of course, you can always watch it again on the replay as well. It would appear that, oh, hello there. We have Asadullo. Hello, Asadullo. Ruziv. Hello to you and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I will be going in a few moments. It has been a long one. I will be honest with you. Mr. Steve said I will join you for a few moments, but I didn't realise that he would be here for over 1 hour and 10 minutes. He was here for quite a while. So thank you, Mr. Steve, for being with us today. Can I also say thank you to you? Because without you, we wouldn't have any of this. It wouldn't exist. It would not be here at all. Don't forget to give me a like as well. Please, you have no idea how important these lovely likes are. They are very crucial. Give me a like right now. Thank you for your company. I hope you've enjoyed this today. It's been a long one. We don't normally stay on this long on Wednesday, but today we did. Thank you for your company. It's been lovely having you here today. I've enjoyed it a lot. I will be back with you on Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. That is when I'm back with you. Don't forget, you can catch me every Sunday and Wednesday, 2 p.m. UK time. Thank you for your company. Thank you, everyone. It's been nice. I hope you've enjoyed today's live stream. We have talked about a lot of things with Mr. Steve. And yes, I did give Steve a fair chance to talk. today. I did not interrupt him. Well, maybe once or twice. Thanks for watching. See you on Sunday and take care. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I am going outside to continue putting up my Christmas lights. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. And see you on Sunday. You know what's coming next. Of course you know what's coming next. From myself, Mr. Duncan in England. Ta-ta for now. Ooh.